Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hi, everybody. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's podcast, Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Welcome aboard, new and veteran. Chances are you're a professional in your field, most likely business owner, and you want to invest, and you want to invest the right way in the right properties. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but the fact is, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of like no money down, owner financing stuff, which does work. I mean, I've done a bunch of it, and it has its place. It's just not every place. So the fact is through life, if you can progress and grow your portfolio and get to be on a cash basis, you call the shots and you can get properties, the properties you want, and then refinance them later. You can get creative with the purchasing techniques, all kinds of things you can do. But the point is, I want to put you in control so you can borrow strategically, all right, and not always be at the mercy of, can I get the money or not? So in any case, we invest ethically and honorably. We buy the right properties, we rent to the right people. It's great for the neighborhoods. Everybody wins. So in any case, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, like 75 different channels. Now it's in, I think, 30 some odd countries. And, join the group. Matter of fact, if you haven't joined the community, go to myinvestmentservices.com and read all about it. You can put tons of free stuff you can get. But there's a community you can belong to where it's all of us investors and thousands of what we call investor agents. These are agents I've trained to work with us investors. So you don't have to worry about dealing with agents that really don't know anything about investing. You can focus on the ones who are certified. Always look for certified investor agents, okay? We train them. We're investors. We know how to train them to work with us, okay? So in any case, we got a special guest today, Mike Tomasetti. Mike and I have some common background. Both of us, I've spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, and Mike's from there. And we have some common friends. We're part of a mastermind group called Abundance. And we do lots of cool stuff, and every one of us invests, and most of us own businesses too. So welcome aboard, Mike. I appreciate you taking your precious time to do this and share your wisdom with everybody, man.
I'm there.
Awesome. So if you wouldn't mind, Mike, start off, tell us a little bit, give us paint the picture of Mike Tomasetti so people listening will have a better context of who you are and all that. And then we'll get into some details, like what kind of projects you're working on, okay?
So I'm a real estate developer in Center City, Philadelphia. I'm 45 years old. I've been doing this since I was 26. Bought my first business at the age of 20 after I dropped out of college. And have been on my own ever since. I haven't looked back, and just, kind of real estate was always an interest. And, I sold my construction company and basically started developing properties.
Awesome. And it's always, is most of what you've done been around the Philly area?
No. So I started in Philly, and then I made a ton of money in 2003, 4. Mm-hmm. And then me and my wife were like, oh, great, let's go to Florida. And we moved to St. Augustine, Florida with some other real estate friends of ours, and started buying huge portfolios of bank properties. Mm-hmm. And thought we were buying at the bottom, was not buying at the bottom, and basically, lost $1 million pretty quickly down there. Mm. And then came back and then just started flipping houses. And I'm like, look, I'm tired of this. I want to start developing. And that's basically what happened. And that was in 2009. So from 05 to 09, once the crash hit, we came back in 09 and started back up full speed.
Awesome. Well, back it up a little bit. So are you born and raised in the Philly area? Was that where you grew up?
So kind of interesting. I was born in Philadelphia. I was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Both of my mother and father were drug and alcohol counselors, and my dad had a job down in Nashville when I was 2 to run a drug facility in Nashville. So I was raised in Nashville till the age of 13 and moved back to the Philadelphia area.
What's amazing is you don't have the slightest hint of that at all.
Gary, I tell you, man, I did when I moved back. It was quite interesting, but yeah, I don't have it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I've been in. One of my nieces actually lives right in downtown Philly. She just bought a brownstone probably like a year and a half ago. And what's crazy is she paid like $400,000 for it. I was like, Chelsea, we used to buy those things for like $20,000 out there, but it was like you could walk down and take your pick on them. And it's amazing how that city has transformed. If anybody listening to this, if you haven't been to Philadelphia lately, huge transformation over the last generation. It's actually a hot spot for millennials now. People are moving in there in droves and gobbling these things up. There's lots of little nice neighborhoods, restaurants, pubs, things like that. It's a great area to be. And also, if you look at the greater Philly metroplex, not just the city itself, but the surrounding area, it goes into western New Jersey, and out into some of the suburbs of Philly, tons of little towns, tons of opportunities, great place to be and do some investing. So if you could, Mike, go step back to like your first. If you can remember your very first deal, describe if you don't mind your very first deal, what that felt like. I mean, I know like when I did my first one, I was just plain naive. My college roommate's dad, he was a Greek immigrant. My roommate's name was Socrates, by the way, helped us get that first house. So we had a ready-made mentor built in. The guy was a huge investor from Richmond, Virginia. But what was your first deal like?
So it's interesting how my first deal came about is I was doing a ton of concrete work out at a winery in York, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And my wife calls me up. She just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I just finished it myself. She called me up and said, I just bought 3 houses today. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, do you need me to go look at them? She's like, no, the numbers make sense. It's going to be great. And I'm like, wow. Okay. All right. So that's the first, how it started. And then my very first one that I actually got and negotiated, sounds kind of old school knuckle dragging way here, but mm-hmm. I basically called someone from an obituary, called a family member, and worked out a deal to buy a house in Northern Liberties, which is an amazing area right now. Mm-hmm. And that was my first deal. And it was terrifying actually, but I knew I could figure it out. So I wasn't too concerned. And like my wife said in the first 3 that she pulled the trigger on, the numbers made sense. So it was pretty simple.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. There's so many opportunities out there, and it sounds like you literally picked up the paper or saw it or somehow or other came across the obituary, looked them up and called them. And, the moral of the story there is a huge lesson there, which is putting yourself out there, taking action, just taking that first step. You might have got a no, you got a yes out of that one, but really successful people I found out it's like they just take action in spite of fear. Sometimes they even really have fear. They just feel like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? The guy could say no, and I'm still alive.
Exactly. Yeah, you're totally right. Like, who cares? They're going to say no. You're going to hear no, no, no all the time. I hear no. Even today, I hear no constantly. Yeah. I was on an 8 a.m. call with a potential seller, and he was telling me no to everything I was wanting. So it's just part of it. You just have to be able to accept it, and who cares?
That's exactly right. And there's a ton of opportunities. Most people always think of foreclosures, and I've done a ton of them. I think I've probably sold over 3,000 of them, but there's still some out there. I mean, there's not as many as there were 10 years ago, but they're definitely out there. But the thing is I learned that there is other opportunities. Again, if take this with a grain of salt. Some people say, "Well, I'm chasing ambulances." I'm really not. People going through divorce need help. People who've lost a family member need help. They're gonna sell the house. Do you want them to go into to somebody else, or you want to help them do a good deal for themselves? And it's got to be a win-win, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You're 100% correct.
Man, there's probate, divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, landlord-tenant cases. I mean, owners of properties who are having to evict tenants, for example. There's tons of them out there. And I can tell you, people evicting tenants on a regular basis, they want to sell the properties, So all you got to do is look it up. It's, in fact, because of the Freedom of Information Act, much of the information is available now. So,
Yep.
so stepping forward, you got your first couple of deals that way, just basically getting started, buying probably just smaller properties, but you talked about development. So if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about where you are now and what, as far as business goes, and what are you doing development wise? What are you developing, and are you bringing in partners for funding, or so you making them equity partners? Are they simply lenders, or you share profit sharing? So describe like what you're doing now, because I think a lot of folks listening might be wanting to participate. Because I know some of what you're doing, and you got a great track record, man.
Yeah, thank you. So what we do now, we develop multi-unit apartment buildings in Philadelphia. We do anywhere from 100 units and under, over 100. I haven't pulled the trigger on something that big yet. I feel comfortable, me and my partner, under 100. We build tract homes for cash now. The apartments that we build to hold long term. Mm-hmm. We just balance it out that way. We do a GP, LP structures, depending on whether it is in an opportunity zone or not. The deal has to pencil out before an opportunity zone deal. And, it's just, when dealing with investors, right, we have several high net worth guys that come into our projects, and each one's different. And we normally just say, hey, what are you looking for? What are your goals with your money, and what does that look like? And if it fits into our goals and what we're trying to do, then then we do a deal together. If not, we just go on to the next person. It's just, that simple.
If you're anything like me, listening to good advice is helpful and inspiring at the same time. But having a reference guide at your fingertips is invaluable when I sit down to do serious planning. That's why if you go to the website, myinvestorservices.com, at the very top of the page, actually sort of near the middle, you'll see 5 different guides on 5 different aspects of real estate. All these are free, and all of them can help you impact your bottom line. Just check it out. Go to myinvestorservices.com, right smack in the middle, click on any one you want, or all 5 if you want. Okay. All right. So that helps a lot. So you're structuring, you're not only building the apartment building, but you're structuring the deal in financial terms, and other people benefit and profit from it. I mean, people like surgeons who, they know they should be investing, but they really don't have time. It's difficult. When you're a surgeon, you're on demand. Even dentists and, practitioners like that, they're not just a dentist, they're also a business owner. They actually got 2 disciplines. They're running a business and they're providing a service, and they're busy, man. I mean, and some of them are my friends. It's crazy. So
exactly, yeah. And those are some of the investors we have. We do have, really? Doctors, high net worth lawyers. Yeah, I mean, those are some of the guys that we deal with.
Well, remind me before we're done. I'm going to go back to that because I think some of the folks might be wanting to contact you about that. But back to the development. So I know in the past you mentioned opportunity zones. Have you done any development in opportunity zones and taken advantage of it's really more like a big tax break? I haven't done one myself, so that's why I'm asking. I think
sure.
People realize there's a lot of opportunities out, and that's why the administration calls them opportunity zones.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we have one that we're finishing up right now that I'm going to be heading to do a walkthrough. That was the first opportunity zone deal in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. It was a modular project, 56 units. 6,800 square feet of retail commercial. And, the deal was pretty interesting. We brought in a big bank. They came in with 80% of equity at a 3% pref. Very interesting deal structure on that. And it's a 10-year hold. Mm-hmm. So we have that one. We have another one that we just got pulled out permits last week for, another 44 unit that we're building in an OZ zone. And the conversation this morning with the seller, I'm trying to get this other one under contract too. It's in an OZ zone. But regardless of the opportunity zone benefits, the deal has to pencil out before we could even do the deal. I mean, it's the importance of knowing the numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, just provide a little education for people who don't know, like, what are the characteristics of an opportunity zone deal? Like, what are the benefits? Why would somebody do it in financial terms? What's the rate they get,
So here's the break. So if you have a capital gain, so if you sold stock, a business, if you even sold other properties, and there's a capital gains, you could roll them into these opportunity zones. The interesting thing about these opportunity zones is the census was done in 2010. So in a city like mine, these areas that run off the train line, because we're big on transportation and being able to get into center city.
Yeah.
These neighborhoods in 2010 were completely different. So now they're mapped in these OZ zones where they're selling single family homes for $500,000-$600,000. So the census hasn't caught up, and they're still OZ zones. So really, really simple. If say you have $100,000 of capital gains and you were to roll this into one of these opportunity zones, these qualified zones, and you keep your money in there, you have to. It's a long term play. It's not a develop and flip play. You get 15% break off your taxes. So if you hold it for 10 years, you get immediately 15% off that $100,000.
Nice.
So you're now paying taxes on 85. Now your money's in the deal, getting a preferred return, right? So over the course of 10 years, you're getting 6, 7, 8% on your money. So when the tax bill does come, that money's sitting in the account. So it's interesting how to really save on taxes. And if you come in with big numbers, like my one investor, millions, he's getting a pref on his money. And he's also has an equitable stake in the building. So when we do go to sell in 10 years, that money's tax free. So it's interesting, man. It's a very powerful thing, but like I said, it has to pencil on paper first on its own without even being in a no Z zone.
Yeah, I agree. And the cool thing is, when anybody listening, what's interesting is a lot of people when they first start out, to them looking at making their first million or 10 million looks like it's way out there, and you can't really see the path to that. But there are processes, there are models to follow. There's success leaves clues, and I know after I got past that first 7-figure level and up to the 8-figure, going from this to the 7-figure level, that took forever. Going to the 8-figure level, that wasn't all that much time, because once you learn the fundamentals and the principles, learning to build wealth and income is a process like a doctor learning how to perform heart surgery. He goes to school for 12 years. I'm not saying it'll take 12 years to learn this stuff, but the fact is it is learnable. And what's interesting in life is a lot of people will tell you this, learning to build a wealth and income ends up being the easy part. The difficulty becomes in hanging on to it. And one of those difficulties is taxes. So you have to understand at least enough of the tax code and have a really good tax accountant on your side that understands how to utilize the code for your benefit. We have a document. It's called the Top 10 Tax Strategies for Real Estate Investors. And it's just some stuff simple. We've heard of it. We maybe don't even do it because we don't even think of it. But there's stuff, if you don't know, you don't know. So if you're listening, just bear in mind, taxes is a big deal. I mean, my gosh.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
End of the year, sometimes I'm like, what the heck? I'm okay.
Yeah.
No, Robert Kiyosaki will say, well, be glad you're paying that much tax because that means you made that much more money. And I say, okay, well, I understand that part of it, believe me. But I feel like I'm building a lot of roads for people and putting a lot of kids through school. I'm okay with that, but it's a big deal,
Yeah, I mean, look, you want to be smart, right? I mean, look, we're all going to have to pay taxes, but I had learned quickly when I was flipping houses, and I was like, and have these big numbers that I made, and my biggest partner was the government. I was like, what, this is insane. Like, holy shit, I'm just giving up so much money. And that's when I got the right advisors, the right people around me. I have 3 different accountants. They all talk to one another. I have my main accountant, I have the OZ accountant, and I have my apartment building. He just does our apartment buildings. And they all talk to one another, and we all strategize, and we all figure it out because, that's the key, man. It's not how much you make. It's how much you're keeping, right? And that's the most important thing, because to me, that's one of the most important things.
Yeah, I agree. And very, very clear record keeping and documentation, because I've met him in owner
Absolutely.
before. Yeah, only once, by the way. And it wasn't really all that scary. At first, I was thinking, oh man, this is going to be a big deal. Turns out they're just looking for clarity. They're looking for information. And mine took about a year, but at the end they said nothing's changing on your return. Everything's we got it. We understand it. And then I was like, man, thank goodness my tax accountant is who he is, because there was no issues. We do everything correctly, obviously.
Sure.
And all we had to do was provide further details. That's really all it was. So, hey, if you wouldn't mind, we talked about Philly in Florida. So as far as the where is, so it sounds like most of the contemporary development you're doing is around the Philly area. Have you looked at other areas around the country? Have you thought about that, or is it? I know it's.
I haven't, Gary. So for me, when I was, me and my wife were 28, 29, losing $1 million. I realized that going off and finding the shiny penny or the next new thing was not what I was good at. I was good at doing deals and getting them done.
Yeah.
And staying place and in my sandbox is what I call it. I know Philly. I know everything about it. I know every neighborhood. That's kind of where I live here. Raising my daughter here. So this is where I want to be. I understand it. Going out and learning the metrics and the economics of another town and city just, to me, doesn't make sense. I'm a one-trick pony, and I feel that making money is as simple as standing there at the wheel, cranking it over and over again, doing the same thing. So now that I've gotten older and I understand that, I'm not going anywhere else to look to do any kind of development.
Yeah, that's another powerful lesson too. I know a lot of people will want to branch out and go do something different somewhere else or whatever, or they're trying to do something somewhere else. And the reality is it takes discipline. It's difficult to stay focused on what you develop, what you became good at, because if you're already good at it, at the end of the day, it's really not the money that we want. It's what the money does for us. The money allows us to go on vacations and buy nice homes, but so really the money is like a measurement of success. So if your success is developing apartment buildings in Philly and you like it, man, keep doing it. I'm not opposed to diversifying within your genre. So, like you could take some of your properties and repurpose them into REITs. You could, but essentially the core function of developing as multi-years gives you lots of opportunities for exit strategies,
Exactly. Yep. And just the other things, like I have friends that are, extremely successful going out to Austin and buying apartment buildings and going up to, Nevada and syndicating these big apartment deals. I can't do that. It's not what I'm good at. I'm good at ground up development or repurposing old historic buildings. I mean, that's the two things that I like, and that's what I'm sticking to. That's my story.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's talk about, by the way, I appreciate you doing that and being candid about it, because people need to hear that kind of stuff, But if you could talk about timing a little bit. So you started off before the big recession. You went through the big recession. Now we've been in a boom market for quite a while, and there's going to be a correction. As people always say, we're probably going to have another recession. I'm like, well, of course you are. It's part of the business cycle. It's going to go up and down and for the rest of our lives. And so as far as timing, how has that affected maybe your strategy or, it sounds like you've really been opportunistic. You've recognized the opportunities and seized them. But how's timing playing out? In hindsight, what would you tell people about timing, where we are in the market and understanding all that,
So all my friends all over the U.S., I talk to them a lot that are in this type of business. Look, for the last couple of years, we've been at the top of the market. Mm-hmm. The deals that I'm underwriting so conservatively that if worst case scenario, I had to HUD my buildings out, they pay for themselves. So I'm underwriting to those standards. That's how conservative we are. So I'm just taking my time. I'm doing deals, but I'm only doing them if they fit into my box of historic tax credits. Can we underwrite at the basement? Will it still hold on its own? It's just I'm not overpaying for anything. I mean, even this morning, I had something right up the street in a $1 million neighborhood brought to my attention. I ran quick numbers on it. doesn't even make sense for me to go waste my time to go try to buy it. It's
Right.
going to auction, and the start price is double what I would pay for it. So it's like, that's a waste of my time. So I know immediately not to do it. I just stick to my numbers, man. It's basically it.
Well, you know what's interesting? You just mentioned something important. It sounds like you do the same thing I do. I don't ever go look at properties until I do as much desktop analysis as I possibly can. Get everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people start off there thinking, well, don't we have to go look at the properties to see what's wrong? I'm like, well, yeah, but we don't do that. That's the most expensive use of your time. The best use of your time is to crunch the numbers first as much as you can with the information you have. Then only look at the best of the best, not the most expensive, not the cheapest, the ones that actually fit your model based on the your desktop analysis you've already done. Then when you go look at them, if you got like 3 major renos on it, a new roof, all new plumbing, electrical, just walk away because it's too much risk doing big projects like that. But if it's like maybe one major thing, like a new roof, and the rest of it's just painting and carpeting, yeah, I'll probably take that deal, but I'll net out off of it what the capital improvement needs are. So in any case, people really need to pay attention to that, because I preach that all the time, and a lot of newer investors, they do the opposite. They go look at the properties and they come back and do the financial analysis.
Yeah, exactly. That's a waste of time. I mean, look, just grab a napkin, start writing some figures on it, see if it pencils.
Yeah.
Most likely in this environment, it doesn't pencil. So just, you're going to look at hundreds of them before they pencil. I mean, especially if you're starting out.
Hey, I got a future thinking question for you. So I'm about 10 years older than you, and Tim Rhodes is just a few years older than me. We both cashed out a couple years ago. And I think I've noticed this with guys getting to our age or older. Like I like being on a cash basis. Is when you look to the future for you and your wife, 50s, 60s, whatever. I mean, you're only in your 40s. You're probably going to live another 100 years, by the way. You know that, right?
I'm reading Abundance. The future is not as bad as you think, and that's what they're telling me. So I'm hoping so. I take care of myself.
Yeah. But do you have the desire to be on a cash basis at some point in the future, or have you even thought about it, or what's your thoughts there?
So, look, cash is always king. I don't like sitting on cash. It's not something that I normally do. I normally try to have my money working for me one way or another, whether it's into IRA, self-directed IRA and other investors' projects. I look at this as long-term. I'm saying, I know Tim, he's an amazing dude. I want to be like Tim, man. I want to walk out my backyard and go walk up the mountain and go skiing, right? I want to ski 60 days a year. I want to be mountain biking 40 days a year. Like I want to get out there and hit it hard. So for me, I need my money always working. I need the apartment buildings. I need to be reinvesting. I need to be 1031ing my money, not paying taxes. Defer, and then die, and then let my daughter, and the family deal with it after that.
There you go. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, for people who are listening to this and they might want to participate and be one of your investors, where they provide funding in one way, shape, or form, how can they get a hold of you? Is there something you can provide or offer for people to reach out to you? A website, anything? Because I think people are going to be interested in maybe reaching out to you to see if they can participate in one of your next deals coming up,
Yeah, so you can email me. My email is Mike@Civetta Property Group, and that's CIVETTA propertygroup.com. That's my website. My number's on there. Feel free to give me a call. I'm pretty accessible. I may not pick up, just leave me a message. But yeah, that's how you get a hold of me.
Okay. Hey, if one more thing, and we're getting close to the end here, but if you were in an elevator with somebody or in a cab ride and you had like 60 seconds and they said, Mike, I'm just starting out, man. What can I do? What should I do? So if you had that like 60-second, young man, do this, what would that be? What would you tell people?
So I would tell them, figure out what you want to do and find out who's doing it at a high level, and don't be afraid to harass that person. When I didn't understand something, look, I didn't start out doing this, right? I started out with homes. So when I needed information, I found out who was playing this game at a high level, and then that became my circle. and I entrenched myself around them and learned from them and called them. And, I've done that throughout my entire life. When I don't understand something, because I love information, you just have to not be afraid to ask questions or, look, people who are successful don't mind talking about themselves. So, just stay on top of them.
That's it.
Take action.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing we can teach people. And I've had a lot of, I didn't get where I am on myself. I had a lot of help too, but reading books and learning, you got to do that. Yep. You got to get the right education, and you got to have the right information, obviously, to analyze deals. But it's the action thing. That's the one thing I'm like, man, I wish I could can it in a product or something, or a magic pill or a potion, but that's not real. What's real is life is real, and life will either unfold for you, or you can have provide some direction to how your life's going to unfold by simply taking action.
Absolutely. Yep. You have to take action, because if you're calling and harassing these people and you're not taking action, you're just not doing anything, they're going to stop taking your calls and they're going to stop hanging out with you.
Yeah. Hey, listen, this was a lot of fun, man. I look forward to seeing you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
We'll know we'll be at Aspen here in another couple of months, man. If you can make it, that'd be awesome. And but meantime, if you see any fellow Go Bonus brothers out there, tell them I said hello. And I appreciate you taking your time. I think I speak for everybody, Mike. I know you're a busy guy, but sharing your wisdom like this and your precious time, we really do appreciate it. And everybody listening, reach out to Mike. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please go ahead and do so. Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. We have lots of great guests like Mike. Go to the myinvestmentservices.com website, grab a bunch of free learning material, join the community, and we'll see you at the top. So, all right, everybody, take care. God bless you and your families. We'll see you, Mike.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.